Hello ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else watching. My name's Eric, and welcome back to a brand new video here on the BioShockHub. Another day, yet another article. Man, I've missed saying that. It's been quite a bit since I've done one of these. As usual, I'll be providing the article down in the description if you want to read it for yourself, as well as providing my input and critique on the article itself, and I would like to hear your input and opinions down in the comment section below. So, this article is entitled, BioShock 4's RPG turn could flip the series' philosophy on its head. So with that being said, sit back, relax, and let's get into the article. If the job listings on new developer Cloud Chamber's website are to be believed, BioShock 4, or the new BioShock, will see the series integrate far more RPG features than the previous games. A listing for the role of systems designer requested experience designing a, quote, emergent sandbox world, end quote, while one for the position of senior voice designer sought applicants with experience creating branching dialogue systems for other games. This is stuff that we've been hearing about for quite a while now, and I do appreciate the fact that they're reiterating this within the article. BioShock has never really held back with its philosophical and political commentary, so BioShock 4, or the new BioShock, will unlikely buck that trend. And I agree. I feel that the core game itself is going to be BioShock. They're not going to stray away from that, so we'll see. However, if the next game really does include branching dialogue systems and a more open sandbox world as the Cloud Chamber job listing suggests, it could flip one key part of the franchise's philosophy on its head. Free will in BioShock. A man chooses, a slave obeys. When Rapture's founder Andrew Ryan speaks this line in the first BioShock, the player is left with no doubt as to which side of the fence they fall on. And that monologue is the antithesis of what BioShock is. It's a line spoken during the reveal that the player and character has been under the influence of mind control throughout the game so far, activated by the infamous "would you kindly" phrase. This may be one of the most memorable times BioShock addresses the player's free will, but it's far from the only one. And like I said, it's very well written, and this is what BioShock is, in my opinion. BioShock 1's commentary on free will isn't as simple as its twist might imply. Jack, the first game's protagonist, does have one major choice he can make throughout the story: saving or harvesting the little sisters. Although this choice changes some details of the game's ending, Jack's overall lack of control over his life and actions is without a doubt. Jack was grown up in a lab, that was very poorly worded, by Fontaine Futuristics, and more specifically, Frank Fontaine with the help of Yi Su-chong and also Bridget Tenenbaum. On his right wrist is a tattoo of 3 chain links, representing the Great Chain of Rapture. Even his one main choice in the game is contextualized with his unwilling role as a pawn in the battle between Ryan and Frank Fontaine, or Atlas, that he doesn't even know is taking place for the most part of the game. And again, I'm going to say this and I sound like a broken record, but it was so well written. Jack's lack of self-determination goes under the radar up until the twist by taking advantage of the player's own suspicion and suspension of belief. Jack's lack of self-determination goes under the radar up until the twist by taking advantage of the player's own suspension of disbelief. Their willingness to simply follow orders, not from Atlas, but from the game objectives themselves, which is a pretty clever way to do it if I say so myself. The lack of choice players have in what is ostensibly an interactive medium becomes a key part of BioShock's story, and something that proposed BioShock movie would likely have struggled to emulate. And every time I hear something about the BioShock movie, it hurts my soul just a little bit. Free will in BioShock Infinite. Booker DeWitt isn't exactly a slave like Jack, but Infinite explores questions about his free will as well. There's always a lighthouse, there's always a man, there's always a city, says Elizabeth when explaining the multiverse. Not only does this undermine any choice Booker might make in a single reality, but it also implies that he is just another version of Jack, which I don't know about that one, actually. So if I'm wrong, please correct me down in the comments. Throughout Infinite, Booker's choices are shown to have little impact. Whether or not Booker gives Elizabeth the bird or the cage has almost no effect on events, for example, and that really bothers me. Infinite even flirts with determinism, particularly when the Lutece twins ask Booker to call a coin toss, which turns out has landed on heads dozens of times before in a row. You can see that on the little chalkboard that they have. As with the first game, Infinite isn't willing to fully commit to the idea that Booker lacks free will. However, the existence of the multiverse is shown to render many of the choices Booker makes irrelevant in the broader scheme of things. The multiverse makes Booker DeWitt's freedom even more complicated. In one sense, he makes every possible choice simultaneously. There are realities where he's baptized and becomes Zachary Hale Comstock, and others where he doesn't accept the baptism and remains Booker DeWitt. In some realities, he is a Vox Populi martyr, taking part in the revolution against himself. That's kind of a mindfuck. With every choice being made in different realities, it could be argued that Booker doesn't have the ability to make choices at all, especially when the different realities begin to interact. Again, Infinite is one gigantic mindfuck. However, the player interprets BioShock 1 and Infinite's commentaries on free will. One thing is clear. Both games take a restriction of their medium, the player's ultimate lack of true freedom despite the medium's interactivity, and instead of accepting it is as a limitation, it turns into a commentary on choice. Now, I can agree with that, definitely. Let me know what you all think down in the comments section below. Free will in BioShock 4 or the new BioShock. Now I'm going to preface this by saying we don't exactly know because we haven't gotten information on it, so take it with a grain of salt. If BioShock 4 or the new BioShock has a more open world and a branching dialogue system, players could be presented with choices all of the time in a way that completely departs from the series so far. As long as the choices make sense within the game, I'm okay with it. It could be very interesting to see a BioShock game which tackles the topic of free will just like the previous installments of the series, but has to factor in the player having far more freedom of choice within the game's mechanics. Previous BioShock games have used the linear nature of their narratives to comment on their protagonist's freedom, so a BioShock game with far less linear narrative could flip this series' perspective on its head. There's the title, they said it. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it won't arrive at the same conclusions. No matter how many choices the player is given within the new BioShock, they still won't have real freedom. And time will tell for that one. These choices and their outcomes will still be set in advance by Cloud Chamber, and even if BioShock 4 or the new BioShock still gives the players more choices to make than previous games, those choices will still be limited. BioShock 4 or the new BioShock could use this to deepen its exploration of free will. It could explore how, even when given hundreds and thousands of choices, the player still has no control over the context of their decisions or their ultimate consequences. And I actually kind of like that thought and that idea. The first game played on the fact that players would not question the objectives the game was setting for them. BioShock 4 or the new BioShock could play on their belief that the more choices the character has, the freer they are. Whether or not the game will choose to subvert this expectation remains to be seen, but BioShock 4 or the new BioShock's RPG turn doesn't necessarily have to contradict the series' exploration of freedom so far. Instead, it can take it even further by giving players more choices while still ultimately showing that they aren't truly free. So, let me know your opinions, your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns down in the comment section below. I would be very appreciative if you did that. So ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else watching, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, would you kindly drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and hit that bell and turn on all post notifications. That way you get notified every time a video goes live. If you want to follow me outside of YouTube, my social medias are the best ways to do so. They are going to be linked down in the description below. A couple of videos should be popping up on screen now if you want to check those out. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video. Take care, stay safe, and I will talk to you all in the next one.